very, very much.
Can I hear us?
Yeah, can you hear us? Can you
Can you hear?
Oh, okay.
No. Are our mics on? Can you hear me? Yeah, I've got a
Okay.
big mouth. Annoyingly.
Right, is
that
that
on?
getting better? Can you hear me
No.
now?
Where's our sound team?
Ed's coming, Sam's coming.
We're just checking.
Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, bless.
Has it got an on button?
I'm going to go with these ones.
We're going to go
Lovely.
handheld.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Speak right into them, thanks.
Is that better?
Oh, is that better?
Is that
That's
better?
more like it.
No?
You can hear
Ed?
me though, I can hear me.
Can you hear me?
Any minute now, Arit will burst into...
Yes, no.
Yeah.
Is it on?
Keep going, Arit.
Is
Keep
it on?
talking. Oh, it's now. Hey!
An on button's good.
Thank you very much. It's very exciting. I think we're all just quite excited, aren't we, frankly? This is a lovely thing to be at. And having done a quick walk round this morning, the general vibe is just exciting. We're here to be inspired and to learn. And I have the huge honour of telling you where the fire exits are, actually, before we start. So right at the back, marked by green, if there's a calamity, that's where we're going. And there are loads of gorgeous hands that will help ferry you towards the main car park where we should gather. But of course, none of that will happen, so it'll all be fine. It feels an enormous honour to be opening the festival and to be starting with my gorgeous Arit. She and I have spent a lot of time standing in gardens, for Gardeners World filming. And obviously when it rains, we usually just keep filming whether we want to or not, but sometimes we end up together under a brolly. And talking about sustainability and her inordinate passion for that, I know that her backstory is really important because we all have a backstory of how we landed here and why we care. So I thought it would be a really good way to start the festival to be hearing about that and how her passion built, and then the messages to take forward so that we can all start open-heartedly listening and walking forwards in our own gardens. So that's where we're going to begin. Obviously, Arit is a garden designer, she's a writer, she's a presenter, and she's passionate about sustainability and climate. So I've got a little clicker here, and we've got PowerPoint things and everything. So yes, do you want to start, Arit? Because this is an unlikely beginning, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it brief, but I think people think that all of the TV presenters from Gardeners World, I think they just think we literally live in a garden. I'll have someone say, "Oh, you broke your foot, did you do it in the garden?" I'm like, no, not at all. You're an antique fair, what are you doing here? I'm like, I don't live in a garden. I wish I could. So my backstory is I started in pharmacy. I worked in fashion most of my career, and I also did events. And alongside all of that, I was a holistic therapist. So when I then came to land into gardening, it was a bit like, oh, I've done all these different things. I'm a Virgo, I'm inquisitive. And so I think that actually all of these different skills actually have really helped me. So pharmacy, yes, I can read illegible writing from doctors. Fashion is about putting collections together, so swap dresses for plants instead. And the events is when you actually are, as a garden designer, you have to put the garden together. It's an event managed thing. And then, of course, holistic therapy is because we care. And I care about people, and I always have and care about the planet as such. So that's kind of the backstory. So then my garden doesn't look like that anymore. But anyway, but that was what I got when I first moved to a house. And you get a garden, don't you? And you go... I can't see where she is. My sister's in the audience. But anyway, my sister was good. She's the gardener. She was going to garden it. I was going to come home, glass of wine and deadhead. That was the plan. But it didn't work out like that because she was her good advice was you need to wait a year, Arit. I got to March of that year and was like, put a plant in, and that was that. And then just slowly but slowly, you can see just the one before, sorry, Kath, the white mark. You know, normally when you get dead men, you know. But I kind of was, I didn't know about plans and drawings, so I was getting sprayed, and that's the picture from the top of the house, run down, oh no, nibble out a bit more, spray a bit more. And then, so that was in the June, and by the following year, and that's my sister, if you see her, she is here with my lovely brother-in-law Pete as well, and I managed to do this in the space of a year, and she was really impressed, actually, because she used to send me window boxes, and they used to die, and I used to say, because they needed watering, and I was like, oh, okay. So she was quite impressed that her sister, who had come from a different background, had managed to create a small garden, and really encouraged me to get into garden design. So that was kind of, you know, that really.
But on quite a large scale.
Well, the thing is, it's really weird, and of course, if there's anybody in the audience who is thinking of changing career, and you have all that ridiculousness around you, am I too old, am I this, can I do it, etc., just go for it, because it is a bit weird. At the time, I was a 44, 45-year-old student, which felt a bit odd, I have to say, and coming into an industry, there he is, Monty. Right? So, you know, the women in the audience, please, calm your jets, really. But when you've got all this experience around you, all of this beautiful learning, all of the people that are passionate about the industry, and you land at 44 as a first-year student, it's a bit overwhelming. But again, you just kind of, luckily we live in, work in an industry which is very inclusive. It's completely different in the fashion industry. So in the first year of college, me and two other students, if you can see, there's us with Carol Klein, fangirling Carol Klein there. We went into a competition. It was quite, when I look back now, I kind of realised then that sort of messaging and getting storytelling out there was kind of beginning, because this was the actual tower. We had to just dress that. But we were all given, there was 3 towers, and all different students had a tower to dress. And this was about birds. And it felt like a big bird feeder to us. And so we wanted to bring home the fact that our UK birds were really suffering, and the populations obviously were going down, and the habitat creation. So all around the bottom was about habitat creation, and the top was showing this sparse future if we don't look after our wildlife. So, and that was on a tiny scale, and we remember being really upset that we didn't really get a mention on the telly, because we were second, and not because we were girls that were, well, women that were change of career, you know, and we were bringing messages and running after Alan Titmarsh at the time, saying, why aren't you showing our garden? Because obviously it wasn't huge. But the point was, it was about the message. It's not about us wanting to be on telly. And I think they mentioned our names and they did a tiny shot of it. So that was that, really.
Okay, but you didn't stop there.
No.
So decides to go for the big one in 2015.
Yeah. So I qualified. Have I got a double? God, it's shocking to hear myself twice. It's a bit off-putting. Is that okay? No.
Oh no, it's not.
There's a feedback.
Try that. That's
Is that
better.
No. Oh. Sorry. Have you got feedback? I'm so sorry. Hopefully sound will sort that in a minute. I'm sorry. Okay. So it's really odd. It's very odd. So 2015, I decided to apply for a show garden for Hampton Court in 2016. So you have to apply very early. And the garden was going to be about renewable energies and how we need to switch to renewable energies. And I think also, Kath, at 2015, so what is that, 10 years ago, it doesn't seem real, does it, that when we were talking about climate then, it was a political agenda, really. I know that on Gardener's World and Jeff Hamilton, and I know he was organic and he was, already fighting that cause, but it was still quite fringe, if that makes sense. And I remember that even on Gardener's World, and I can't say that I've watched it from the very outset, but it was all a bit masked. And you worked on nature programmes, didn't you?
Yes, and I think it was a very different climate, literally 10 years ago, and I think that's part of why this is so important, because all of this has happened. Obviously, the bigger picture has been happening over a long time, but it feels important, really important of where we are now.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago it was a very different picture, and we're all learning enormously as we go on.
Yeah, definitely. So I remember the garden. So this was because the UN, the United Nations Sustainable, the SDG goals, the SDGs, and climate action was number 13 there. And I kind of remember thinking, why don't more people know about this? And because, of course, a lot of things are kind of under filters. It's quite difficult to get to it. And especially like things like renewable energy, I only kind of really come onto my radar because the house that I bought, as you saw before, the people before it were on a renewable energy contract, and I didn't change it. And then I was like, well, what is that? So you don't know what you don't know. I'd never, ever call anybody out that you should know, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So the garden was then, we built the garden, and if we go on to the next picture, actually. So yeah, there he is again, ladies. Knock yourselves out. There he is. And the thing was, it was so funny, actually. I remember coming in, you're so tired after having built this garden, and seeing Monty on it and literally running over, thinking, great. And he's just doing a link, Arit. We don't need you. I was like, oh, OK, fair enough. Because I wasn't on telly at that point. But the garden got televised. And there's, like when you're watching the show, get the you get a backstory, don't you? You? One of the gardens, they'll show you how it was made. And my garden got chosen, and I was really overwhelmed by that, because it was not a sort of a bright, lovely, cheery story. It was about the fact that we need to try to raise the message of reducing oil. If you go on to the next, there should be, if you press it again. Yeah, there you go. I was posh, that. And it was showing, visitors would come onto the garden, and that's representing oil, and there were sculptures that were showing about renewable energies. And I know that it had quite a big impact, because once it had gone out on telly, we had leaflets, and we booked 10,000 leaflets and thought, we'll never get through all those. And we did. So you think 10,000 people walked through that garden picking up a message. And then I was realising, this is quite good, because I used to teach when I was in fashion, teaching juniors about our industry. So you realise that the impact of television, it's not about gloss, and it's not, it's a medium to be very powerful in terms of messaging, and the fact that gardens can deliver really powerful messages in a way that people can hopefully relate to as well. So, and I got gold. But the gold thing was more about the fact that, again, it's the fact that it hit home, and that was a really big thing, because, like I said, there were at that time not as many gardens that were taking on environmental messages, or they were always quite small and tucked away, and only really at Hampton Court. Chelsea, I don't remember up until that point in time, and forgive me if there were, the messaging wasn't quite the same. Yeah.
So a big step.
A big shift, I guess.
So I think it's such a big topic and so broad and relates to all of us differently, and there are so many elements within it. We thought it was really important to have a kind of a look around within that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that...
Oh, we've lost you.
Hello?
Yeah,
oh.
Yeah, you're back.
Blimey. Sorry. Yeah, sustainability. I mean, we see it all the time, don't we? Hashtag sustainability. I'm sustainable. Every company telling us that they're sustainable and things. And it's quite difficult, because at the end of the day, the sustainability agenda is, what does it mean to you? Everybody in this room, myself included, everybody on this planet has a tipping point of what they will and won't do with regards to sustainability. It's the conditioning that we've been brought up with. It's the availability increasing over the years of what we can get access to. And there's a point of I got somebody, I put a post up about going to see Nigel Dunnett, if you're aware of him, the excellent planting professor at the University of Sheffield. And I'd had to drive to his garden. And I put it up on my post. I'd driven up to see him. And I got this immediate call out, oh, great, you say your sustainability, what are you doing driving there? And this person really kind of going to town on my feed. So I went and looked on his post, and guess what? It's private, and 3 posts on there. And I normally don't try to overly respond to things like that because it becomes a divisive conversation, and he has no idea about what I was doing. In the short, I think to myself, well, actually, yes, I did spend carbon to go up to Nigel Dunnett's, but then what we did as a result of that trip, I put it forward to Gardeners World. We filmed it, and it went out to 2 million people who now have some learning and take home that they can now do in their garden. So sometimes you have to crack a little egg to make an omelette, is how I see that. And you have to think consciously what it is that you're being able to do. I wasn't able to go up there by train at that particular time as to where he lived, and we're going to talk about time and stuff later on. But the sustainability thing, this is one of many, and of course you may have your own definition. This is one that I sort of use as a short definition. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, of course, there's more complexity around that. It's around ecological systems and as such. But basically, have you used up more in the pot that you've robbed it out of the next generation's pot? And that's the issue that we're at the moment, is that the resources that we are tapping into are greater, far greater. We're left a lovely legacy. We've got beautiful plastic floating around for everybody for thousands of years, etc., etc., etc. And it's a case of us kind of now trying to do what nature always wants us to do, which is to rebalance. And that's really what it's about, I think.
Yes, and this was inspiring for you, the RHS report in 2017.
Yeah, so so this was just after the show garden. So they had done a report back in the 90s, and this was an updated report that they did. Now, when I did the garden in 2016, they had just appointed their first ever climate scientist. So that was, again, quite monumental. And, of course, I made sure that I befriended her, lovely Eleanor. And so we chatted about things. And then over time, she invited me to this launch to go through the report. And the launch was the report was quite interesting. Again, it was just that sort of, what does gardening in a changing climate mean for gardeners? That report is actually still on the RHS website. I believe they're updating it again. But it was really interesting because there were things in there like... they did a lot of surveys with people, and one of them would be something like, in a changing climate, would you be happy for your own lawn to go brown because obviously of the watering? Yes, we'd be happy with that. And would you be happy to see brown lawns in public spaces and public plants? No, we wouldn't want to see that. So, again, this is, and it feels, in some ways, as I have this conversation and go back to this moment, because we've come so far, and we had do get that, sir, it's fine. It's important, it could be important. Take the call. But when, I can't remember the year now, so somebody will probably correct me, maybe it was 2018, 2019, when we had the first images of Yellow Britain, when we had one of our big hits, and we were like, everybody was like, oh my gosh. But you know what, we need to see that and say, that's what happens in a drought. But only a few years before that, our perception of what good looks like is verdant green lawns. That's what the UK is known for. So things like this were in this report, and I thought at the time, what am I going to bring to the party? There's Baroness Brown from the Climate Change Committee that was there hosting it. There was Professor Alistair Griffiths from the RHS, Professor Dr. Cameron from Sheffield, and there's little old me who's literally just spat out of college, kind of going, right, okay, what can I bring to the party? And it's what I hope I still bring now, is just ask the stupid question. So I was my conversation to everybody was, well, how do I know what good looks like? How do I possibly know, if I've come from a different industry, how do I know that I'm not doing more harm thinking I'm creating good? So, for example, Eco-Deck, the plasticised timbers. if you look on the marketing, and of course you could go, yeah, of course I'm being more sustainable. I'm not going to replace it as often. I can wash it down. You're not going to put your foot through a piece of broken timber, yeah, or whatever. So, and versus real wood, or real stone versus porcelain. Everybody had a trend for using porcelain. Or actually the good old classic artificial lawn versus real lawn. Now, you see, everybody goes, Now, let me tell you, 10 years ago, you weren't going, We were laying it like it was going out of fashion, because at that time it was deemed to be more sustainable. And the thing is with that, of course, you learn more, and when you learn more, you can go, right? but at the time, and I was trying to desperately find scientific evidence, not marketing evidence, scientific evidence about the benefits of either or. And I did find a paper about the artificial lawn versus real lawn, and it was by scientists. And actually, in that conclusion at the time was it depended on the situation. Because at that time, there were people who would say, I've got a lawn, I have a lawn. And I remember my lovely sister who's hiding in the audience, she showed me a picture in this yellow drought year of a client of hers who had watered the lawn. It was this green oasis, watering lawns. Who waters their lawn? No, it doesn't matter if you do. I'm not going to call it, because people do water lawns. Who feeds their lawn? Okay, past tense. Who used to water their lawn? Who used to put down feeds on their lawns? Yeah? Oh, you can't all be that virtuous. I'm so sorry. I mean, I might have come down to Bristol. It's not just us London lot, let me tell you. I don't care, because that's the whole point. I used to do those things because that was deemed to be okay and what you did, right? So it's very easy to kind of get ahead of yourselves and kind of, it's like I used to smoke. I don't smoke. It's that type of thing. But the thing with the lawns, for example, that people, maybe nobody in here, but people... yeah, I knew it was going to be a tough audience. But people would feed their lawns, nitrates going into the ground, etc., etc. So how can that be any better or worse than artificial? You get my gist, okay? There are many products that we have in our back gardens, that are creating a lot of carbon. So one of the things with a group of other passionate landscape architects and designers, and we're looking to set up a foundation where we want to be able to help people to kind of get some answers to some of these things. And a sustainable landscape has got many elements to it. We're not going to have, unfortunately, the time to go through all of the detail of them now, but you have to think about your site. What is your site? I mean, how many times have we, and please don't say you've not done this, how many times have you bought a plant because it looked good and you got it home and you pop it in and then it dies? Because you love the look of it and then you realise, it was ericaceous, it was acid-loving, and that's what we do, so we have to know our site inside out before we go and do purchases. Unless you're at the Old Valley Festival, buy what you like. But that's the thing, know your site. What biodiversity are you trying to encourage into your garden? You have to create the right habitat to be able to do that. Your choice of hardscape material. I try to kind of now, when I'm working with clients, try to think about the fact that if that garden, there's two ways you can think about it. If the garden, so think of your gardens now, okay, your beautiful, virtuous gardens, right? If that garden, in 100 years' time, nobody else come in and did anything to it, what would still be left standing in that garden? The trees. What did you say? Brambles. What was that, sorry?
Brambles.
Brambles, yeah. The brambles would be there, wouldn't they? But the thing is that, of course, it's for those people not in here, that have made choices You know, they're plastic timbers, they're artificial lawns, they're plastic-handled tools. You know, all of these things that would not necessarily be rotted down and that nature could reclaim and break down. Or the other way to think of it, which I like to, so I have a lovely friend who thinks of it as she tries to plant and make crate gardens that would melt literally back into the ground, even down to the detail that if you live on a bed of sandstone, you put sandstone pavers down. You don't go and bring in a granite into that area. You bring in the stone that you're on the bedrock of, things like that. Also, the other way to think of it, if you've just put your garden in, if somebody said, come and bought your house now and said, I don't like that garden, bit rude, but they said, I don't like that garden, and they ripped it out, how much would be going to landfill? So that's the other thing. So you've got these ways. I try to think about what I'm putting into the garden, how much of that can be, you know, in a way that it could be recycled, crushed, reused, etc. There's tree management. Obviously, we have to think about our trees. We'll come on to that a bit later. Plants, we've sort of touched on that, and there's going to be lots of talks today around, you know, what sort of plants we need to have in our spaces as well. Water management, you know, again, because you are all from Bristol area as such. In fact, who has come far? Who's further than Bristol? Oh, hey, come on. Did you all walk? Shall I put something on your social media? No. No, because you come because you need to learn, and you can't learn if you can't get somewhere, and we can't do all of it online. I'm really teasing. But things like water management, you know, we were talking to Sarah yesterday, and lovely Sheila Das, who's in the audience somewhere. You're going to see Sheila later, is head of Parklands and Gardens of the National Trust, and she has this thing about with weather, which is about the fact that we talk about the rain in our country as if it's like, oh, there's risk of rain. You know, oh, there's showers, you know, it's good for gardeners. You know, you think it's good for everybody. We need to drink, you know. So the whole thing about the water management and then with that our whole cycles of how our systems work. Of course, as gardeners, we tend to be a bit more tuned in. But, you know, if you think about other generations who just think, where does water come from? A tap. You know, and this idea of, like, why would we want to have a hose pipe ban? Because it hasn't rained, you know, and that sounds really obvious, but you have to, when you're communicating to people, is you don't assume that people know what you know, and we don't call out people that don't know as much as you. You educate them. That's what I think is really important.
We have to pause.
We have to pause.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, sorry.
So luckily, the visionaries that are Sarah and Tim Mead have put together an entire festival, because what's clear is that there is ever such a lot to talk about. And during the course of the day, obviously Arit is here all day, so there are other panels with more things. But very quickly, before we go to questions, which we will any second, well, I know we're running out of time. Arit and I talked about the feeling of going forwards into the festival, and you were talking about wholehearted and open. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think, God, I can't believe, so sorry, such a chat box. Mm-hmm. Is that the time already?
It is, it's 11:30, yeah. We've got a quarter of an hour of questions, but
we're not.
yeah.
We've got a couple more. There's a couple more slides I want to flick to, though.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Shall I do that
well,
now?
let's just flick to them quick, because then just to make sure, because we don't need that one. But
that one.
And that's just about communication.
Yeah.
And that's a podcast, and that we can click through. And we can flick through that, because the communication, which I've skipped over, and then really important bit, which is communication, but that's what we're doing now. So the things to 5 more minutes, then we'll do 10 questions, sorry. The thing that's really important about sustainability, and I'm sure that people have come to their own conclusions and their own inquiry and their own thought processes about it. One of the things for me has been about time and a good relationship with time, because what happened, I think, when this sort of major catapult of the world is burning, you know, we're destroying our planet, in terms of, the major conversations, imagine those poor climate scientists who for the last 80, 100 years have been banging on about this, and we're only just waking up, and some people are going back to sleep and whatever. But the point is that we're in a really strange time now where we have got this urgency, but for me, in terms of the people and the things that I've learned and talking about, but actually being sustainable takes time. So we've got this kind of weird dichotomy going on, that you need to have a good relationship with time to be truly sustainable. The example, for example, when we're rushed and we're running out of time, we jump in our car, don't we? We do, because we can get there, in and out, to the shop, where actually the more sustainable option would be to go on public transport, and of course, most times, that takes more time. So we become time poor, so that's where we start robbing. I've bought a new garden and I want to enjoy it now. I want big trees, I want big this, I don't want to wait for it to grow. So we start robbing the resource to make up for time. It's that classic thing when we were all, I'm sure there's a few people in the audience that were like me, which were brought up just as ready meals were coming out. And you kind of go, a ready meal, that's kind of the start of the demise, wasn't it? Somebody had to cook it. But we had this kind of smoke screen of, it's quick, you can get it in the microwave, but somebody still had to cook it. But the way that we now then think about things, and we're now fast forward, we're in an Amazon world where we literally click and collect within it. We're on subscription for everything. We don't even sometimes even know. I just had, who gives a crap, toilet roll turning up. I was like, did I order that? Oh my God. Because it's everything's so sort of got that fast pace. But of course, in the land of gardening, we can slow things down. We do grow from seed. We are watching processes. But equally, there are times when we run forward. And Dan, he's up there because Dan Pearson, for those of you who know him, is a fantastic plantsman and garden designer. And he has an amazing relationship with time. He's done a project that was called the Takachi Millennium Forest, which was a project over in Japan that was about building a forest for 1,000 years. I'm speaking to him saying, Dan, I see that, how's the meadow going? He got some hay from Great Dixter. Yeah, Arit, it's all right. He said, give it about 7 years and I think it'll start looking good. If I said that to a client, I'd be hoisted off. You'd be like, because we don't think in that long term. Yet actually our forebearers, our ancestors, all the landscapes we live in, so, Lancelot, Capability Brown and all of that, they didn't see that landscape. They were never going to see it. They've futurised so much that we enjoy now. So part of it is getting a really good relationship with time. And I think the thing with this festival... Damn. I'll shut up. Keep flicking through those just in case there's something else. But the other thing about today is about having an open heart. We all have a view, and I'll give one example, and then I'll be quiet. And then Anna Mumford's in the audience, so I have to mention the book. She's a publisher, and then I will shut up. But we had one guy was at a talk, and we were talking about No Mow May, and he sat at the front, and he was like that. The whole time, the whole body language, and I said, because I know people love mowing their lawns, and why wouldn't you? Because it makes the borders look better. And he was just like this the whole time, and I said, so would you think you would try that? I'm not sure about this, But he came up to me after the 40-minute talk and said, what, actually, after listening to what you and the host were saying, I'm going to give it a try. And that was such a massive thing for me because I thought, actually, he'd come in with I don't do that. I don't do that. But because he listened and was open-minded, he might get that enjoyment. He might just get those extra wildflowers coming to his lawn. And that's so massively important. And that's my big invitation for today, is just to really keep an open mind. And you just might turn a corner on something that you wasn't quite sure about.
Fabulous. Thank you. Lovely people, we have 8 minutes for questions, but only for this session. There are countless sessions coming up. So we have gorgeous other people with roving microphones who will come and scamper. Short-ish questions, I think. Let's cover as many topics as we can in the time that we have. There's a lovely lady in a black top here. Have I got somebody at this end? Perfect, he's on his way. Thank you.
Hi. I'm at a pivotal part of my life and I am considering complete change in career. Is there one particular course? Is it your course? Would you suggest that I tried?
I just think with anybody that's looking to change career is kind of look at what you love doing, really.
It's the gardening.
So if it's the actuality of gardening,
yes,
then you need to look for a really good gardening course that's actually, as opposed to design, because that can add on later, so that you've got all the skills to be able to... Do you want to garden for other people?
Yes, but I also want to know more about the science behind it.
Yes.
So perhaps horticulture?
Yes, so you can, depending on your time and your resource, your money resource and stuff, you can run 2 courses together. You could be doing a hands-on practical course, something like an RHS horticultural, which they go up to about 3 different stages. Okay. And I think anybody that's looking to sort of change career, and the best thing as well, which one of the slides we skipped, was volunteering. There are so many gardens out there that require gardening volunteers, and that, that's something that I think would be really good. Well done. Join us.
Will do.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Arit.
Lovely.
We've got Janet. Janet, I need Janet's question because it's going to be a tricky one. Nothing tricky, Janet Manning. Be kind. Be kind, Janet Manning.
Hi, Arit.
Hi.
I'm going to make this an easy one. I think you're probably preaching to the converted here, because all of these people have come because it's an organic garden festival. So it's a little bit like going to the supermarket and buying organic veg. When are we going to turn it around so that this becomes normal and gardening with chemicals, peat, all the rest of it becomes the thing that we need to sort of push to the side?
Well, it's a good question, and that's the thing. I agree with you. Hence why I was teasing about, with the chemical and all of that. It is often you are attracted by. Hello? Oh, yeah. You're attracted to things that are with like-minded people. And I was saying to Sarah last night, one of my tasks, I didn't want to do a New Year's resolution as such, but one of the things I want to challenge myself on is how do I get over the garden fence? How do we talk to people outside of this room who need to have some more information? But the point is, one of the things that we can't forget is that the people are here in this room because they have a garden, because they have land and they want to learn more. A lot of the people who are outside of this room don't have a garden. We must always be really mindful of that. They don't get access to natural space. If you're talking about politicians and stuff, that's a whole nother conversation. And I always encourage any group to make sure that you invite in the people that you want to all have a go at, because they're not here, because politicians or developers, that type of thing. So I think in the first instance, you have to kind of know your tribe, which is here. And then I'm going to throw it back out and say, well, you guys tell me, how do you then take this outside of this tent?
I can chip here. So 2019, I did a strand for Springwatch with Kate Bradbury, the lovely Kate Bradbury, who's the wildlife writer on Gardener's World magazine. And she had she'd moved to a new terraced house new to her in Brighton. And the garden was 5 paces wide by, well, still is, 5 paces wide by 13 paces long. And at that time, she was the only gardener in her little bit of street. And the first thing she did, she'll tell you all about this because she's here today, or tomorrow, was she lifted up the paving slabs and immediately got a blackbird in, and then she built a pond. What happened then, she got hedgehogs, and all of the people in her bit of street saw what she was doing, and they all cut a hedgehog arch into their garden, and down the road it went. So I think I think part of this festival is about inspiring us, and by inspiring us and illustrating that, it's clear that it inspires others and gives that comprehension. Yeah.
And I agree. I think that, you know, that the thing is, and Janet and I, we have worked together on things before, and the thing is that, again, it's about knowing your skill base, because somebody said this to me, and I do believe it to be true, that, you know, a lot of people in land management, or certainly within the garden space, are quite shade-loving and don't actually bang their gong about what they can do and keep it quite sort of, you know, they'll share if asked, but find it quite difficult to kind of get up on a stage and talk to other people. It can be quite difficult to do that. And the last slide, which is on there, which is Mr. Gore, Mr. Al Gore, I think, there he is. You know, I remember meeting him and saying, you know, so how do you get this message out? He's got, you know, this wider message of trying to get out about climate change and everything. And he's like, well, first of all, you know, you buddy up with somebody who's an expert, which is the climate scientist. That's what he does. And he's an advocator and a speaker for them. So I think that, I go back to it, communication is absolutely key. Yes, this is a closed system of like-minded people, but then again, it's encouraging all of you to go out and have a conversation, whether it's with a neighbour, whether it's with a child, whether it's with a school community group, a volunteer group, and you have to quite literally spread the word. The bigger conversations, which we've spoken about before, which is about government, they have to be in the room, and I think it's often about inviting them into those conversations. Maybe that's what we'll speak to Sarah about next time. But this festival was about getting people energised and knowing that you're part of a group of people, and then being able to go, right, what can I go out and do? What can I do? Remember, like the diary thing, you know, when we ask people for a diary date, I can't do this date, I can't do... No, tell me what you can do. And that's what we'll focus on. What can we do? Yeah.
Marvellous. Arit is on 2 other panels today, and she's also in the bookworm tent later in the afternoon signing books, and she's around and about, and obviously she can't get away because she can't run. Yeah, so she's going really slowly. So thank you very, very much indeed for being part of what feels a bit historic, frankly, us all being here together simultaneously. And the beginning of the festival. Thank you very much, and thank you to Arit.